the Market Musings podcast. Well, welcome everyone to this new AI series podcast here from Stockbox. We're going to be doing about 6 episodes, all focused on AI with various guests. And co-hosting it, I'd like to introduce George Wilkins, a good friend from many, many years, who will be co-hosting. George has got a lot of different businesses throughout the years, entrepreneur, and at the minute is in the AI space. But I'll let George say hello.
Hi, Mark. Yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm actually quite excited to really get into some of these topics because, like you said, as having many different businesses myself and businesses now, and being dragged the last 18 months through like leading some AI teams and trying with conventional software and hybrid approaches, it's been a whirlwind. So I'm excited to get the chance to speak to some of these guests you've got and to dive into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And of course, you're calling from Spain, I think, from a castle, which we might involve in some of our discussions later on. I know you've got big plans for developing that and also working the land as well. But maybe you can give us a bit of a 30 seconds on what that's all about.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting because through the last 18 months of my journey with AI and looking at the different way businesses have developed and can develop, and the way that AI can really be a bit of a superpower for a founder, but it can also be a superpower for people who've got quite complex project ideas that before they had barriers to being able to create proposals or to do deep research and investigations into validating their ideas. And that AI has been a catalyst for me with this particular project. It felt very, very big. I was looking for a different way of life and like sort of being more outdoors and working with my hands a lot more. But it was quite a large property and quite intimidating. But yeah, it's helped me really be able to break that down into sections and come up with ideas and do it a lot cheaper. So maybe we'll get a chance to explore that in the future. I'm more focused on using AI to look retrospectively back at problems that are created within smaller businesses, which seems to be like these two areas. There's people using AI to create totally new concepts or ideas, or not necessarily totally new, or a combination of old ideas like we're going to see today, with new, like the idea to create something that's existed for a long time but make it very accessible, with using AI to look back at companies that have evolved over time, created tech stacks that have become very complicated, and that actually they're unable to change these like oil tanker style things around, and AI can slot into those situations to free up a lot of time within those ones. So it's going to be very interesting to speak to people in all over that spectrum.
Well, with that, let's bring in our first guest then. So Professor Ronjon Nag, professor at Stanford University, founder of R42, and recently executive director at Cap AI, listed on the London Stock Exchange. Ronjon, thank you so much for joining us on this AI-focused podcast series. How are you doing?
Very well. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
No, it's really nice to be speaking to you. I wonder if you can perhaps just introduce the AI factory model, first of all, R42, what it's all about.
Yeah, so R42 is a venture fund and an institute. And what we've applied is the AI factory model to Cap AI. So hitherto, you need dozens of engineers to build things. A real premise is to use tiny teams, just a few people, because the tools you have available now, you can really generate code. You can really generate in just a few minutes an application, a few minutes of an MVP, a minimum viable product, but maybe a few weeks to get almost a fully functional product.
Okay, interesting. And why have you partnered with Cap AI?
Well, R42 is on the private side. So typically we invest in companies and we create companies, but they are privately funded. What we want to do with Cap AI is look at the listing process. So it provides liquidity to investors. Secondly, allows retail investors, ordinary people on the street, to invest in these leading edge ideas with their small amount. So sort of democratizing the investment process, democratizing the access to these kind of new innovations.
Okay. It's interesting you mentioned this MVP, and I want to just talk about that a little bit, because some of the iterations of AI that we have seen, of course, you can get things done very quickly. You can mock something up very quickly, but taking it to that sort of next level, if you like, is maybe where some of the challenges still lie. I don't know if that's fair enough at the moment. Is that fair to say where the space is?
Well, nothing's easy. If you're actually going to make a product that people actually use and want to use and pay for, you have to do the normal processes of quality assurance, debugging, being able to see if it's something that people want. The difference, though, is instead of sort of getting a feature out and spending several days to put that feature in and then getting it to user testing, you can actually now do that entire cycle in an hour or so and just change it right then and there. And so that's a speed up of, some people say 100 times, but certainly 10 times, 10 to 30 times quite to get products out.
Do you find that the teams that you're developing, you talk about focusing on these small teams, do you find that the skill base of those programmers are a little bit more, are they different? Are they wider than the conventional programmer? Because if you're encompassing all of those processes into that one team, potentially those programmers have got to have a wider range of skills potentially.
Well, it's a different kind of process. It's a wider and narrower. So on the one hand, it's commoditizing the programming process. Right now, there's probably 100 million people in the world who can code. That's about to change to 2 billion. So if you can write English, you can code. Coding is going to be like PowerPoint a year from now. Everyone will just be doing it and using it. And then the differentiator then is, what are you actually coding? What are you building? And that's a different kind of skill set. You typically, a programmer will take a product spec from a product manager, and he would implement that specification in code and then bring it back to the product manager. Those two people are now one person.
Yeah.
Typically you have fights between different silos. Now it's one person. You're fighting with yourself, and guess what? You can change it yourself too. And so instead of a team of it's certainly both on the venture side and also the side of R42, instead of teams coming in 14, 15 people, we're seeing teams coming in with 2, 3 people. And there is this concept of a single person unicorn, where you actually have a company and it becomes a unicorn, i.e. $1 billion valuation, and it only has one person. This is what Sam Altman at OpenAI sort of proposed. Whether we can get there or not, I mean, I have one company in my portfolio with zero people in it. So how does that work? Well, there's directors, but there's technically no employees on salaries.
I've spent a bit of time looking at the concept of the single person unicorn, and I actually do believe that is possible. I'm involved in a business myself where there's 2 of us. But I've always thought about it like conceptually, that all the things around a business. It's interesting the point you made there, that there's not a single employee in that business, but it's surrounded by directors. Do you think that really it's potentially like a single person in the center that's maybe the drive, but then there's a whole more conventional style business machine wrapped around that person?
Well, I mean, you kind of like need 3 functions, and either it's in one person or 3 people, but it's probably not in 50 people. One is the vision. Who's got the vision? What is it going to look like? Are you going to make a book that's completely written by AI, or is it going to be collaboration with humans and AI to get the things together? And what does that vision look like? Second is the marketing person. Okay, you've made it, and that's fine, but you can put it out there, but you can't make the horse drink, right? And then third is the sort of the business development, sort of more of a partnership person. Okay, you've got your product out there. Who are you going to partner with to get scale and get people actually using it without you having to spend any marketing money? So that's probably 3 functions. They could be in one person. Typically, founders are very interdisciplinary, and they could be in that process. I mean, my first company, we only had 3 people. That was in 1993. That's before internet. I wouldn't say before AI, because that was an AI company. My first AI implementation was in 1983, actually. But my first AI company was sold in 93. So I've been in the field 40 years at this point. Not 4 years, 40 years. So I've been through lots of ups and downs and seeing what things happen and what things don't happen.
Do you think that? I think there's a point at which where the traditional world of business and founders. You speak of a founder there. Like, I mean, traditionally, like, founders have sort of slogged it out through sort of several different industries potentially, and developed like maybe sort of a resilience that comes with having to learn the intricacies of the business or the processes that build the business themselves. Do you think that there's a risk of because so much is possible so quickly, that actually the attributes that that create a solid founder and build a business maybe a more become rarer because the road to being able to create these things is a lot shorter?
Well, my thinking is we're all going to be founders. There's going to be more pressure to be founders. Maybe this is leading on where the jobs are going to be. In Silicon Valley right now, the fewest number of software engineering vacancies than ever before. It used to be you do a computer science degree, that would be literally for decades, that's your straight shot to a high-paying job and a long-term job. Now that doesn't seem to be the case. We're probably moving to a case where everyone's a founder, everyone's an artisan, but guess what? They've got tools to do it. They've got tools to help them accelerate their learning. Clearly, they may need domain expertise in a particular industry to specialize in that. But basically, how are you going to get around the today the big tech AI, the big tech AI systems, OpenAI, Anthropic, who might just throw it in as a feature. In the olden days, it was Microsoft. Now people say, "Oh, Microsoft they'll throw in grammar software." It took 30 years for another grammar checking company to actually rise, even though only a half-baked one got in the first version of Word. Now they threw in a fax software. Those of us who remember what faxes were, and overnight, fax companies were out of business. So you're going to see that little bit of that dynamic that in the main GPT systems, they'll throw in a feature, and almost by accident, it's not like they're trying to get rid of industries or businesses. Those businesses will be go out of business unless you've got domain expertise, execution. You've got features that only that people want, that the big guys can't be bothered to research about.
I mean, that actually leads on to a really important part of what we wanted to discuss with you as well, which was the changing investment landscape. I've found from my own personal experience in some of the businesses that I've been involved in with traditional software-based, like ERP platforms and things like that, that actually the appetite for investment in them, and because of the inability to predict like maybe like you talked about their features just dropping in almost as an accidentally covering an entire vertical, maybe. Have you seen the appetite from investors has changed dramatically? Do you think there's still a market for investors in a traditional software, or do you think that it's actually almost pivoted totally to AI first?
Right. I think it's almost like in the olden days, they'd say they're an internet company, but now no one says that. Of course you're using internet. We're on a streaming system right now. And we're getting to that phase now. If you just say, "Oh, we're an AI company," well, yeah, of course. Well, of course you're using AI. You have to use AI, or otherwise you'll be out of business. You're going to be using 10 times more resources than somebody who is using AI. And so people are trying to figure out how to use it. All sorts of articles popping up. People have tried to use it but haven't got their ROI on it. And so in a way, it's actually easier, I think, for smaller companies to use it more aggressively than bigger companies because they've got an entrenched kind of way of working. And so it's difficult to throw in new things. If you're going from scratch, all of a sudden the other dynamics is the interpersonal dynamics, the silos that build up in larger organizations. If you have a small entity, the communication is just so fast. where something can be actually improved. And then all of a sudden you say, oh, well, I don't need this person. I don't need that person. I don't need that. There's an AI thing that just does it for me. There's an agent that does it for me. There's an agent that answers emails for me. There's an agent that will craft websites for me. So all of these things where you usually either outsource or have people on staff to do, you don't have those anymore. And that's going to be more difficult for bigger established companies to sort of turn the big ocean liner around. If you're starting scratch, the world's your oyster. The problem is it's also scary too, because you say, well, no, I want to go and get a job, and companies are slicing at least entry-level jobs left, right, and center, so they're not there anymore. So young people coming out of universities are really quite worried. I think they don't need to worry, but they've got to get into this new mindset in thinking for themselves.
R42, of course, are working on lots of different products. We're going to look at just one in a moment. But where do you, Ronjon, see the most opportunities in the AI space for transforming industries, transforming workflows, or indeed that sort of mass adoption element as well? Where do you think that might come from?
Yeah, so I think certainly at Cap AI, our focus is media and medicine. At R42, we're a bit broader. It's sort of, we say AI and longevity science, so we'll do AI in a wider sense, not just media. Certainly anything text-based, I'm seeing decimated. If you're in the legal industry, for example, certainly journalism, public relations maybe less so, because it's a relationship thing. Do you know the journalist? But anything text-based is decimated. I'm seeing time and time again people get an expensive quote from their attorney, and they just jump onto GPT and get 95% of the way there and say, well, is this okay? Right. So 1/20th of the effort. So legal firms going to have to really re-architect themselves completely. Then I think I see medicine. Medicine is going to be revolutionized, and it depends on what country you are, but certainly pretty much most countries, no one's happy with their healthcare system for different reasons. Even if you've got insurance in the US, you can still take a long time to get go and see a doctor. There's a copay amount that puts you off. Long queues in the NHS, I'm sure. So look, there's all these critiques about the GPT systems not being quite as accurate, but they're getting better and better and better. And if it's that versus nothing, you're actually sort of, people are going towards almost as a matter of necessity, not just if you're living in the third world. If you're living in the developed first world, you can't get your doctor's appointment. Or at minimum gives you a conversation, an accelerated conversation to talk in 10 minutes with your doctor. The third area is media. Certainly, I don't think the industry knows what was going to hit it. Media in the widest sense, everything from articles, books, all the way to radio shows and movies, podcasts, are going to be really tremendously disintermediated. We've been working on Author 42, something I built all by myself, did an MVP completely single-handedly, all by myself, while I've got all these other things to do as well. And then I had a team of people working 12 weeks who actually shipped a product, right? And so we can show what that is. But the next thing is going from a book straight to a movie. And so we've got the demonstrations where you can show the first part of that, going from a book straight to the trailer. You haven't actually told the system what the actual scenes are. You just say, here's the book, what's the trailer going to be? Thirdly, a book to a game, like maybe it's a fiction book. Again, you don't tell the AI system what are the particular areas to look at, the scenes to look at. You let it work it out yourself. Imagine $10 million to create a movie, down to $1,000. $1 million to create a game, down to $1,000. I mean, that's the sort of thing we're going to do. And then we're going to have to, then it's people's imagination. Well, what kind of book is it going to be? What's appropriate? It's going to be creativity is going to win out now. So when I talk to young people, pull yourself outside your comfort zone, get into creative exercises. So courses, classes which force yourself to interact with people. You may be quite shy, but you force yourself to be outside your comfort zone, to stretch your mind, to be creative. And certainly if you're up until the age of 25, the brain is quite plastic. You can actually sort of get into that mode. Even myself, I'm talking ad lib now without any work. 10 years ago, I'd be very, very shy and nervous about the whole thing. So you have to sort of, as as broadcasters, you have to get into kind of the zone, right? You just sort of be able to talk about anything on any topic and be comfortable with occasionally getting it wrong, but hopefully be sensible about it.
When you're envisaging, sorry, Mark, when you're envisaging Author 42, like, how did you visualize the different sort of segments of the market that would use it? Like, when I was thinking about it and have thought about this, I thought about it particularly in relation to the AI generation of music, where I used it amongst my family to create songs about specific events that had happened, and then we shared them, and then everyone's playing this AI generated version that's only for our family, but in their car. And it was a very strange concept, like of playing a personalized playlist that sounds like it's recorded in a studio. And then when I was thinking about your product there, I thought, well, the ability to take family stories or things that have been written within groups that are very specific and niche that might not have wider appeal, but actually mean everything to the people that know what they're talking about. Did you like visualize these different segments when you were coming up with that idea?
Definitely, very different segments. So right now what we've deployed is the non-fiction section. That does include memoirs, but even memoirs would like to do a bit more work on that. So you can actually ask people questions that might sort of prevent their writer's block, that they can actually prompt them to actually fill in kinds of things that are out there, and where you can upload photographs and it can sort of deduce what's actually in the photographs and create little paragraphs about what it might be like. And then you can go in and edit it to what it really was like. There are other segments like non-fiction, and non-fiction is then split up into lots of areas, fantasy, romance, drama, mysteries, horror, etc. And how do you actually get? That's a little bit more structured, completely different, because our intention there is to guide the writer again in how to actually create certain segments and really accelerate their writing. So the writer still puts their ideas in, still have their creativity in, and still trying to accelerates their thinking in much the way the word processor with grammar and spell checking does accelerate your perfect writing. Can you actually accelerate your writing by yourself? Now, that's human collaboration. You're going to have really three segments in the world coming forward. One is human only, and that might be a bit like buying an ancient blanket hand woven from India that's been crafted, but someone has spent 9 months embroidering it, so it's painstaking work. Then he's going to have the combined effort of AI and humans. And I think that would be the bulk of things, because that's going to be more creative. You've got to think about what you're going to write about. How do you do an interview on a streaming platform? And the third one is going to be AI only written. So maybe we'll have the prizes will be separated out, these book prizes. AI, the best AI book, the best joint book, and the best human book, because you're going to actually have different things. People are going to use things. There are some critique that, people don't want to read AI written books, but they're not, those books aren't out there yet. And if you want to know how to make the best chocolate cakes, you're going to get the cakes the recipes wherever they come from.
That's really interesting, this kind of 3-tier thing. And I guess in those 3 tiers, that each of them will attract a different premium, like your hand-woven rug, for example. You're going to pay a premium for that. And do you think we'll see sort of the business landscape changing, and people will pay a premium for human-created elements versus the full AI, and then the hybrid in between?
Well, I think there is a premium, but that industry got decimated. Now, I was born in Yorkshire, and they decimated another. The Industrial Revolution decimated the previous industry, and they themselves got decimated by globalization and more efficient manufacturing systems. So they don't go away. Those segments don't go away, but they may be overtaken by big chunks. Maybe we're waiting for a book. Now, how should I do an interview on Stockbox. There isn't enough market for that book and enough people to want to do that, because there's only a few people that go on your show. So the market size may be 30, 50, maybe 100 people. But maybe a book could be written, in a week or two, where you could write it to advise us on how to prepare ourselves before we come on, and we can take a quick look.
That's a really interesting point, actually. I don't know. I'll try to keep it on the topic slightly, but what it's thinking of me, what's making me think of is a lot of what I've been sort of getting involved in now is the way in which AI can form the backbone of not the backbone, but it can empower smaller communities, like rural communities over here in Spain, to actually be able to create new businesses, new industries very, very quickly, and actually creating books and about very specific functions within that, and advice guides and things to do like that. All of that before that was almost a barrier to being able to do those things has been lifted, and I've found that a lot recently.
Okay, so people are energized and scared by this upcoming environment that AI is out there. Certainly, there's critique saying, well, it doesn't do everything, doesn't make toast, doesn't make do everything that it says that it's overhyped. And I would say, yes, it is overhyped, but it's not going away, and it is going to generate. I think Jensen Wong said it's going to generate more millionaires in the next 5 years than the internet did in the last 30 years. And so that's from an investment point of view. That's what we're looking at, is can we find those segments and can you get in at a reasonable level? Certainly, if you look at the big GPT companies, they are losing billions of dollars, and yet valued at hundreds of billions of dollars. And so how does that work? So the market's thinking they're going to catch up, just like Amazon caught up. I think it's you're going to have a better investment scenario going for the tiny teams approach, where finding your niche and where you can get in at a reasonable valuation and you can dominate an industry, turn something upside down, because the bigger guys are going to have much more difficulty turning around. They're going to spend more turning around. They're going to have more difficulty getting the results turning around. And they are, the top management are not AI people. They're not. They're wondering what it is. It's going to take a decade or two before people ripple through to be at that level where they understand it completely.
Well, I definitely like what you say about the millionaires. We'd all like that, and I think me and George can probably speak the fact that we probably weren't really around very much during that .com. We were obviously alive, but not aware of what was going on in the .com boom. And I wonder how we can draw comparisons to that .com boom and sort of where AI is on that adoption curve, or that starting to do what the .com did. I did read an article the other day that talked about the AI has sort of had that initial, exponent curve up, and is sort of now plateauing a little bit. The next iterations are maybe not as impressive as the previous iterations, but nonetheless, it still presents a very good investment case, because it almost makes it a little bit less risky. It's less of a moving target, and it gives time for things to kind of consolidate a little bit and for people to start adopting without it constantly being changing. Where do you think we are on that? If we to make you, I'm sure you experienced you did experience a .com boom. I mean, how can we compare
Yes.
the .com boom to the AI, and where are we now on that journey, do you think?
I'd say the culturally and socially, the internet boom was bigger than the current AI boom. It may be difficult to fathom that, but I was in Silicon Valley in 1999, 2000, and it was like the gold rush, traffic jams, massive parties like the Gilded Age, people overspending on fancy office furniture. And everyone from around the country, around the world, descended in California to make their fortune. It really was like a gold rush dynamic. Following the internet boom, there was the internet bust. Incredible dynamic. There was people who had leased cars and had gone to the airport back to their home country, and they just parked their leased car in the parking garage and just flew off. Right, they had no money. Right. This is that the kind of dynamic, and then the roads were empty. It was almost like a pandemic, not quite as bad as the pandemic. Roads were empty. So the boom part, I'm not seeing the boom excesses culturally that we saw in 2000, 1999. Do you remember that song, Party Like It's 1999? It wasn't, it's not at that level. And so, I think, like you're saying, it's probably a little bit more balanced that people are sort of thinking, well, we do have to make returns eventually. The bust people are concerned about that. There's 565 billion that's been spent on AI infrastructure so far, and yet there's only been 35 billion in application revenue. So you need people who use the infrastructure to make more money than they're paying for it. That hasn't happened yet. Now, will it happen? I think that's probably the next generation. People who made the money with this application layer. It wasn't Cisco, though Cisco did really well, like in the internet days. It was new companies that didn't exist. The eBays, the Amazons, and then later on the Googles, that Salesforce that came on afterwards. And that's what I think you're sort of starting to see that shift. And of course, people are worried about that intermediate layer, the Microsoft, the browser wars. And then finally, Google came along. There was a small company called Netscape, which was dominated the internet with its browser. Now no one knows who they are. Will that happen to some of our big LLM providers or GPT providers? Because there's like 5 or 6 of them. Is there room for all 6? I'm not sure there is. Now, I think governments and trade commissions are going to say they want competition. They're not going to allow it to be a single person. If it is a single person, you get a very different economic dynamic and antitrust dynamic.
How then, Ronjon, can we become millionaires in this, either with investing? And I want to just relate back to something you said earlier about a lot of the jobs are going to go, but you did actually make a point about saying, and I think I'm right interpreting, that AI perhaps can't do creativity like humans can. And you said that young people should be trying to be more creative, get into that creative zone, as John Cleese would say, that open mode, as he describes it, to be creative. So there's 2 elements here. There's, of course, people who are entering the workforce who want to find work and make a living. And then there's the investment side. So I've got sort of 2 questions in one there in terms of what people can do to take advantage of this in terms of investing, becoming millionaires, hopefully, but also people entering the workforce.
Yeah, I think, we kind of often say, you won't get rich by working for someone. You might get rich by owning your own business. That people are going to be essentially encouraged to do that, not because they want to do that. They'll have to do that because there won't be enough occupation. What AI doesn't have, certainly some creativity, but it's getting quite good. It's being creative. It doesn't have drive. So it might say, over at Cap AI, we thought, let's look at media, book writing. How do you do that? Well, the AI hasn't done it itself. It can do a few things. You can upload your sort of your script and it'll rewrite it for you. But it hasn't written the whole book. The whole book has got a lot more things. Even if you do write a book, will anyone buy it? So we've got a system that looks up bestseller titles to figure out, would anyone buy it even if you made it? It won't do all the formatting. It won't do all the copyright information. It won't do the index. It won't do. So AI is not doing that for you yet. It could do that if you did it in multiple steps, but that's kind of like a chocolate cake. Are you going to make your own chocolate cake? Yes, some people do. Or you're just going to buy it from the store, which like 95% of us do, right? And so there's going to be opportunities for people to do things. One thing AI doesn't have is drive. No, it may have IQ. It may even have a bit of EQ. There's these GPT friends popping up. You can just be friend with an AI system. But it doesn't have drive yet. It's not autonomous. It's doing, agents are doing what you tell it to do. Is it going to be autonomous in the future? The so-called maybe a super intelligence where it's actually thinking of itself. It thinks of a thought and just goes and does it. That's some people think as little as 5 years away. And of course, we have imagine, it's going and does, but it's our slave, really. It's going to do what we do. But some people are afraid of, well, maybe it will just decide for itself that it doesn't need humans. Those are sort of fantastical kind of ideas, some things that should be short thought of, and know what could happen. But right now I think it is a gold rush. It's an opportunity. If I was sitting listening to this conversation, I'd be thinking, what in my domain, my industry, can I use it for that no one else is using it yet? And they're not using it because no one in my domain has figured it out yet. And some domains are like further behind in technology adoption than others. So that's what I'd be doing if I was watching this program.
Yeah, I mean, we've from our own personal perspective, we've sort of combined old school with the new. So it's actually like in local areas because the barriers to or the goalposts are smaller. You don't require that huge volume of customers actually to reach a level that is sustainable and is actually a lot is maybe more achievable on a micro level, in a geographically
because you've got
small area, like face to face.
Yeah, because you've got fewer people in your teams, it's much easier to be sustainable and unbankruptable, essentially. So the companies will last longer. Because their burn rate will be so tiny, they can last longer than previously. Do we want to do a quick demo?
Yeah, let's do this demo.
Great, yeah, I'd love
Let's
to.
have a look at this.
Okay, so the idea is you go to Author 42 and you can just write in any topic you want. So let's put AI and longevity. It's one of the fields I'm looking at, and we'll say that's in the fields of, let's do medicine, AI. I'll put my name in because I'm vain, and it's a genre. It's probably health and fitness, general readers. We'll make it general readers, instructional, beginner friendly, maybe intermediate. I'll just make this instructional, first person. And this is modern age, and I want to make self-help 40, 60,000. You can upload materials. You've got some manuscript or something and URLs, and basically it'll generate some ideas for you here. And what it does is it looks up the sales records on bestseller lists, on what's actually selling out there, and does an analysis of the kinds of ideas that you can actually write about. And this is actually, going to underlying AI models. So you're using that. So what we have to do, you have to put execution around it. And now, depending on the pricing, you've got so many thousands of words you can write, and you can write 1 to 3 books. And it's coming up with ideas now. Digital life, eternal youth, AI's role in living longer, and it will finally come up with proposals. And once you've written the book, it will put it in you can put it in a store that we're just building out, and being able to actually create something that people might actually want to read and buy. There's another title, Future Fit, AI's Guide to a Longer Life. And so it comes up with sort of titles that you may not have thought of. It's a little bit of alliteration there, Future Fit, and we'll just hopefully get an answer. And you can also search what's going on with our trend spotter. And also, if you've already got a manuscript, you can already start from that. So let's see. It actually does an analysis, a market analysis of the kind of book you can write, other books that already exist. So you can sort of research those, a couple of other ideas, and gives you a score which is most useful. Let's try this one. And then it will generate a table of contents for you. And this will take a few seconds. And while you're waiting, it'll actually, you can sort of test yourself on sort of writing copyright law, right? And so you're stuck on your there's middle chats. What's the most effective AI approach? Ask for plot complications, or we're not doing this is a non-fiction, or ask for, so we'll ask for, wrong. He says ask for plot complications. Okay. But both fiction and non-fiction. Okay, there we go. Here it's given us our overview, but now it's given us all the chapter titles of the whole book. So far, it's just given us the titles and the section headings within the chapter. And we can now have 3 choices. So we'll start at the beginning again. So you can actually, you can add another chapter, you don't like it. You can actually write it yourself, or you can have the AI generate it for you. So it's going to generate the paragraph for your section and come up with the answer from writer's block. You can actually, it will generate so many words in so many sections, and you go through section by section. So the idea, it doesn't write the entire book for you. It's supposed to really help you write the book. And here it's actually written it. And you can then edit it and be able to, and you can even listen to it, and you can have another go and regenerate it, or you can edit it in our editing system. So here it is, it's editing it, and then you can say it's marked. And so you might you can just start editing it and off you go. So it's giving you a sort of an idea. You might say, well, read formatting, and you can actually sort of look at this whole thing and do it paragraph by paragraph, and you can change the font so you can actually be bigger and be able to do a single chapter, analyze it, and go forward. So
I've got a great application. I've got a great test for this, Mark, that we could do. Is because I'm doing a renovation project, and I'm but starting to do like a lot of sort of low scale agricultural stuff over here in Spain. But I can't actually find any books I find a mismatch of documentation and studies and things and rainfall guides and water collection ideas, but nothing that's specific to this actual region. And this jumps out at me as something that I could actually compile these different things that I've read, all these sources that I've sort of verified, and then I could ask it to create me a specific book that will guide me to that I can refer to how to actually do this successfully in this area.
So the pricing is like most internet applications are $20 a month. Yeah, you could try it, George, and 7 days free anyone who tries it, and more people will do more books, and so the average book is like 80,000 words or so, 60,000 words. And you can generate it and also to convert it into voice and the like. So there's that. So let me go to another demonstration, which is the video one. I think I would do a video there. Let me just find that.
We should definitely try that, George. Yeah, we should have a go at writing that book and then compare it to what's out there.
Yeah. I mean, just like we were talking before about the changes in industries, just while you're setting that up. Mark and I actually began our sort of working times together in film, conventional sort of film production.
Let's have a look.
And some documentary and that kind of thing. And I was thinking the other day how that would we've both sort of deviated away slightly from it, thankfully. Because that. I was involved in a small video generation project for a company now, and it was just slightly distinguishable from real life, just only slightly. And I was thinking that was a £15,000, £20,000 project, writers, actors, this, and I was just thinking, whoa,
all right, let's have a look.
Gone.
Share screen. So this is a recording. Let's watch. So we're going to see 2 movies. Taken from public domain books. One's Cinderella and one's Frankenstein. So actually there is actually sound.
Well, what news does the royal courier bring to our humble abode?
Oh, mother, imagine. The prince.
Honestly, the very thought of you at the ball is laughable.
Yes, Cinderella. Perhaps you can dance with the mice.
And try not to stain your pretty rags with soot.
I look at the lighting. And
just like a dream.
Tears are not for you, my dear. Not tonight.
In that singular moment, the world outside ceased to exist. Only the gleam.
In a world that had momentarily ceased its turning, they found a universe within each other's gaze.
Does it have the memory to...
Tempted hand can't help.
to maintain the characters and the faces and the things? Like, is it like throughout?
Yes.
Like, is it generating each scene individually, or
His
is
heart,
it?
once a fortress against the world, now beat only for the echo of a forgotten
It's the
melody.
exact idea. Yes.
It's too tight! Mother, I can't even get my heel in! Nonsense. You're doing it wrong. Let me.
I'll have to give that a go later.
And then there's another one which is Frankenstein.
But the very essence of life, to wrest it from the void itself, is that not the ultimate pursuit?
It lives!
Completely.
Oh God, it lives!
Wow.
My God! A void. A sensation. A burning question unanswered.
A warmth emanated.
So this is a book that's available in the public domain. Like it's
touching.
Yeah.
You're able to use that. And then,
Yes, exactly. So we can make our own Frankenstein movie.
Soon you will
So-
not be alone. We will have peace.
So, but, you know, the
in the
quality's not
style
bad,
of
right?
like,
No, I cannot.
no, it's really good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's sort of like, you know, it costs millions. You can do it for $1,000. Right. So it's right. It's
Wow.
that's where
Is that ready now? Is that live now then, Ronjon?
that's not live to the public yet. That's coming forward. Yes, but it is. We have made it.
You want some
this
testers?
I'll send you the exact presentation, and you can.
Okay.
Yeah, you can definitely when the time is right. Yes, we're probably not too far away to releasing the trailer one, but this we've got heads of terms to put this into Cap AI, and so Cap AI is generating lots of technologies through the R42 Alliance in its portfolio. So there we have it.
Excellent. That's amazing.
Is that amazing?
That's incredible. Well, thank you so much for showing us that, Ronjon. That's really inspired me. Gosh, if you can give us early access to that, we won't put it. We'd like to have a play, I think, Jordan.
We'll be gentle. We'll be gentle. I won't,
Start off with the book one, and then we'll have the movie one.
The book one, I've genuine use case for at the moment. The book one, I'm actually really interested to give that a real go. Like we said previously, that kind of place, creating that bespoke product that wouldn't exist, but you can create it for yourself based off your own resources and your own quality, and change it and edit it. That, for me, for all the different things that I get interested in and want to read at night, would just be really interesting. That. So,
all right, I have to jump off.
Well, George, what do you make of that then? I mean, for me, that trailer demo at the end was phenomenal. I mean, I couldn't believe that, actually, that I saw that. I can almost believe the writing a book one. We've sort of got a little tease of that from your chat GPTs and your Groks out there, but I've never seen that length of video created. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, I mean, it was impressive. I have seen similar things. Like I've seen, there's a really interesting video that maybe we can share. It's like a short film that's been created, and it's the characters within it pleading with the person creating the prompt to change the prompt. And they're actually, all the scenarios are generated through prompts. And it's things like that that make it, it's both impressive and very, very scary. Scary, not necessarily in the sense of, oh my God, doomsday scenario, but scary in the sense that the impact on industries is quite profound. You and I, from our background in film, you can realize, I mean, it's difficult to count the number of industries that were touched today in that conversation. So on one hand, it creates huge investment opportunities, especially at the ground level, because although people think, oh, maybe the first wave of AI has come and gone, it's transferable to everything. People, when they thought that Bitcoin would never get over $1,000, and now look at it. It's always the inability to perceive the future based on what your experience of the past was. And that's just a very short, narrow-minded way of looking at the world. So I just try to keep an open mind, but I keep reminding myself of, if you and I were out of university going into film, that is a total different existence to how it will be now. What was your feeling on it, like positive versus negative?
I'm excited by it. I mean, I can see how it could cause concern for people who are looking to get into different lines of work. If we just say that the media side of it, the video creation, the corporate videos or what have you, who might be thinking, well, is there a need for what the skills that I can bring? But I think, as Ronjon said, and I can relate to this, and probably you as well, we're both founders of companies as well. Prior to doing Stopbox, I did work for my father's company, and I had to be multi-skilled. It was a media department within that company, but I wasn't a cameraman, I wasn't an editor, I wasn't a animator, I wasn't a script writer, I wasn't a voiceover guy. I was all of that. I had to do all of that, and I did worry. I thought, if things go bad and I have to look for another job, I can't go to the BBC and say I'm a very good cameraman for 10 years, because I wasn't. So I had to develop all those skills and be multi-skilled. And I think as an entrepreneur, as Ronjon mentioned, you do have to have that. So I think if you've got that mindset, and if you're in the creative industry, I think you can probably utilize the technology out there to enhance your workflow and enhance what you do. And something that I'm working on at the moment, actually, as a side project, is one of my great uncles was in the Royal Air Force in World War II, and he was captured by the Japanese and put in a prisoner of war camp. And anyway, he recorded cassettes of his time and his experience throughout the whole of the war, and he escaped down a drain pipe, and it's really interesting story. So I've got those tapes recently, I've got them digitized. I'm currently going through and just fine-tuning the audio and making it sound a little bit better, chapter marking, but AI is helping with the chapter marking. And, what a great thing. I was thinking of putting it out as a podcast series, but if you could take that, because it's probably, I don't know, 12 hours or so, or 8 hours of audio there, turning that into a bit of a screenplay, putting a trailer together, because it's such a huge idea, but if you can make that kind of trailer initially, or that prototype, then you can sort of see that coming together, and it doesn't seem such a big problem. And I think that's how we can, in the media space, you can utilize things like AI is really getting you started on stuff. As Ronjon said,
I mean, that is yeah. I mean, I can imagine how that would just be. You take the idea of those tapes, that gold that sat there, that is totally unique, and that's that's an interesting idea, isn't it? That there's all of this material out there, all these experiences that people have had, all these ideas, things like that. I think that's a really unique and quite profound example of how AI could bring something to life that would most likely otherwise stay and deteriorate over time and is currently in a format where future generations of that family can't really consume that story effectively. And I think that would be a fantastic example to look at, to try and take that and make it real. Just like the example we gave in the interview there with Ronjon about the book that I want to create about this project, like about the castle, like it was about the way in which I can actually administer these ideas, and sit there and plan and learn. I think the tools that he's created there exemplify that. I also really liked him as an example with the Author 42, because again, that's a great example of a guy with the know-how, the hybrid of the past and the future, someone with that that founding knowledge that underpins his whole approach to everything, built over many years, embracing what the latest and greatest of what it has to have, and has created a working business model from himself. Again, we touched on the idea of the one person unicorn, and when you and I spoke about this before, I've been skeptical of that, because actually, in reality, it sounds nice, it's a good headline, but actually, there's a huge amount of stuff that has to get interwoven into that, and there's always a danger with putting people on a pedestal there's lots of examples recently of big collapses and things like this, where people who were held up on a pedestal as being this crazy savant type person have then proceeded over a catastrophic downfall. But no, I thought it was very impressive what he'd done, and I mean, what do you think in terms of the investment opportunities that come from it? Like, for me, it's difficult to know. It's difficult to how do you get involved? I mean, I suppose it's because they're PLCs, you can actually get involved quite simply, right? Is that how people would go about doing it?
Yeah, if they're PLCs like as they get like Cap AI, then yeah, it's on the exchange. So you can just any normal broker, you can go ahead and buy it. Better if you can get in sort of the grassroots or a bit further on, maybe sort of pre on the market there, like almost like a founders or a pre market round, just because you'll get in a bit earlier and just get that little bit better price. But something like Cap AI, it's already listed. You can go on and buy that, and it's still very much in its infancy, isn't it? I mean, they've just moved in just finalised the agreement with Cap AI. Ronjon's just joined the board. They're just doing the Author 42. The movie is the next cab off the rank, as they say. I think the AI space is incredibly exciting, not just for revolutionising how people work in their everyday lives, but as a place to invest and benefit from that that financially, really benefit financially on that journey. It's got to be likened to a .com, a crypto tech revolution, tech boom. So right now, to be having these conversations, to be looking at these companies that are just going on, you want to be getting in now, I would say, not when people start changing the domain names to abccompany.ai, like what happened in .com. That's the time to be, when it's overhyped like that.
Which is what's happening now. It's in full flow. It's in full flow already. That everything's a lot of things are .ai, .this. And it's, I don't know. It's sometimes it's difficult to. I worry from an investment perspective as an investor myself. Like it's the way in which, the way in which the investment appetite has changed a lot. Like I know it from a company I'm involved with. We've had to pivot or change the structure within the business to reduce costs, to be able to give ourselves time to be able to adapt the business model to do it. We're lucky because that particular business, it has other cash generative businesses within the group. But from an investor perspective, almost overnight, I 2 or 3 people got in touch with me and be like, look, we're not making plays anymore with conventional software. It's AI first, and I guess it's quite easy to get caught up in the hype or the fad, But no, it's definitely a new world for that.
It's a new world, and it is very much in its infancy. I don't think it's going away. When you look at the investment that's going in from the Metas, the Microsofts, the Twitter, in these huge centers. I mean, I know there's a slight environmental concern about that, but I cannot see the world using less energy. We have to get more efficient at how we produce energy and more green, but we're not going to reduce our consumption of energy, that's for sure. It's only going to get bigger. That's another investment, actually, energy.
Who would have thought? Sorry, who would have thought that was it Microsoft recently that have signed to take a commercial nuclear reactor? Like, you wouldn't have thought even 5 years ago that private companies would be building their own nuclear reactor to power their data centers. And this is what I mentioned before about, and especially from an investor perspective, I still find come across people in very high positions of real control that I have conversations with who, yes, there is obviously some hype here and there, but a lot of people are dangerously uninformed about the impact that's coming on their particular businesses. I mean, my focus with AI at the moment is to identify processes within businesses that are easy targets for getting a real good ROI very quickly. And I'm speaking to people, and they're blown away when I start actually telling them what they can do and the things that they can do and the ways they can improve their own lives. Like from a founder's perspective, I mean, there's a really great example the other day. I was going to a meeting and I had an idea about a business, a proposition that I was just going to talk about as a side point. And I thought, you know what? It would be a lot more professional of me if I actually turned up with an outline to that. And in the car on the way there, I recorded a 5-minute voice note because I know how these documents are structured. I structured it in the voice note. I gave an overview of the financials, the people involved, the kinds of projections that I wanted, and the general feel. And I turned up at the meeting with a document, digital document that actually was it wasn't totally polished. You as founder, thinking up pitch decks, that's a week. It's a week.
Yeah.
Really sat there polishing that, and yet I turned up, bang, done. Those kinds of things really do create quality of life improvements for people in positions like that. But going back to my previous point, it's now almost irresponsible to be uninformed about the impact that AI is going to have on your business. You can't be like this, It has to be, yes, elements of it might be exaggerated, but it's better to go and find out which bits are exaggerated rather than just go, no.
That is a great example, and that fits really well with you and your entrepreneurial. I can just imagine you driving to a meeting and then, in the car, just getting the AI assistant to sort of make you a pitch deck. Well, that's a great example of becoming more efficient within that sort of bubble of being an entrepreneur and multitasking and using everything you can to really streamline and make your work and your life more efficient for building out ideas. Well,
yeah, I mean, I know you can end it. You can edit this last bit out if you want. But again, going back to the castle thing and the natural barriers that exist, you imagine it touches the whole industry. But the designs, the garden ideas, the inspiration, I can take photos of the area outside, and I now have fully drawn up visual representations of what I want to do. And before, that was a block. It was like, oh my God, before I actually start doing the fun stuff, I've got to find a designer. I've got to find I've got to pay X amount of thousands for this. I've then got to do this. I've got to do boom, 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 boom. All of these things that then mentally, they take the fun out of it. And therefore the project stagnates, same as within a business project. You take that out and all of a sudden, boom, you've got visual representations of what you want to create. All impossible for me before without AI. It just leaves you free to actually then do the heavy lifting, get rid of the small tasks and go and do the big stuff. So lots of examples.
Get to the fun. That's important. Well, next time we're going to be talking about creativity, and is the art of creativity dead? And as Ronjon sort of was talking about there, probably not. You've got to be more creative. But our guest is going to be someone from Sunday Bar, which is an AI agents marketplace. But the guest himself, James, is he's in game design. So we'll actually be talking a bit about how that industry has evolved and how AI is transforming that. So looking forward to that conversation if you can join us next time.
Definitely. Like I grew up with original Counter-Strike, back in the day, when there was like a few hundred people on there staying up late at night playing when I'm supposed to be going to school, playing Counter-Strike and things like that. Not so much in my later years through time and stuff, but I'm so excited that the idea of being able to create the options that people have to create their own games. There's I can't remember who it is at the moment, but there's recent news about basically prompt to interactive environment. Where you can actually create worlds, interactive worlds, by describing them, and then walk around them. This is incredible. And then you combine that with like a game engine. It's not just disruptive. That, imagine if you're creating your own game. Like we were using an example in the West. You just wanted to create a Western recreation, and you wanted to just go out and be in the Wild West for a bit. These things are just unthinkable a year ago. It is a case of holding on to the ride, mate, because I think it's just going to go so fast.
It really is, and it's going to be exciting. So we hope you people watching can join us along that journey. So stay tuned for the next episode.